Yo, what's going on everybody? Danny here and welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are doing well. I know there's all kinds of crazy going on with coronavirus, and I'm sure that there's no person left unaffected. I've been self-isolating, as they say, for well over a month, and I'm so ready to get back to the gym, back to hanging out with friends, and shooting videos like just outside. So I can imagine you guys are feeling the same. So let's just take a moment to relax and rap about our favorite game, MapleStory. Lately I've had a lot of time to play, but that's kind of been a blessing and a curse, primarily because if I progress too far in the game, then the videos are going to be way behind where I'm at. But at the same time, I can only pack so much into like a 10-minute episode without completely losing your guys' attention. So I'm trying to think up some form of balance to, I don't know, progress the series a little bit faster so I can progress faster without losing that like attention to detail that I think the series is all about. It's actually pretty crazy how quickly I'm leveling with the quests. In the series, I'm only around level 61, but in actual time, I'm maybe around level 126 and I've blown through a whole bunch of content that I'm excited to share with you guys. One of the problems though is that there are just so many quests per level bracket that I am out leveling the content by so far, like to a point where now when I'm doing quests I'm like 20-25 levels over the mobs that I'm training at, which means I'm not going to get any experience at all for doing it. And the biggest issue is probably with the event store, because I want to farm the out of that event store, guys. I want all the cubes, I want all the E-pots, the fancy chairs. But to do that, you have to train on mobs your level. And if I kill mobs my level, I'm going to out-level these quests even further, even more. So I'm not sure what to do yet. If you guys have any suggestions, leave it in the comment section below. Throughout this episode, as I've been rapping with you guys, what I'm doing is running through one of the primary Paragon quest lines, which basically revolves around gaining more allies in the town and killing, I mean massacring a ton of boars in the process. Normal boars, iron boars, fire boars. I was running from map to map killing hundreds of these guys, and I did do every single, what do they call them, bounty hunter board as well. So this ended up with me getting a ton of levels and eventually getting the Rocky Mountain Hunter, which is a title I've never got on any character, and I think it looks pretty badass. From doing every single level appropriate quest, I'm actually unlocking like all kinds of achievements in the Maple Achievements tab, and I've unlocked quite a few medals. Some of these I never see around Reboot, probably because no one else is actually doing the quests. Nonetheless, I really like some of these medals and they complement my outfits quite well. After all, to me, Maple is way more about fashion, then everything else basically comes second. Another cool area I got to explore during this quest line was the excavation site, which a lot of you guys will remember from more like an older time in Maple when people were doing Guild PQ. These days, I didn't really see a lot of people there, but it did provide to be a nice training spot, and the music in Paragon is a big vibe. It actually reminds me of when people used to like literally hang out in Paragon and use it as the FM. Like for those of you guys who played way back, you guys will remember that's where people usually were chilling to trade items and merch, right? That's where like all the OG pictures of people being like at sign and just like spamming whatever they're freaking selling. So I stayed here in the excavation training site for quite a while. I was just kind of surfing from map to map. I had a couple Frito and Inferno portals along the way that you guys will see, which guys, talking about out leveling content, even doing a single one of these portals gives me like what, 40, 50, 60% EXP at this level. So, you know, training and those combining was just boosting me up faster and faster. Don't get me wrong though, I actually really enjoy these portals. Like, I think on my typical characters, it's even better because it breaks up the monotony of grinding and offers a lot of experience. But the main reason I don't want to skip them on RogSlayer is because they offer great rewards. Those pouches you get at the end of each portal can give you all kinds of different cubes, E-pots, stamps to increase the lines on your items. And I know I don't really need any of that right now, but I am definitely going to need those items later in the game. It's kind of fun because right now I'm only like level 60 and I don't need that much damage. But once I start hitting level 170, 180, those Star Force maps require a ton of damage. And the bosses like Chaos Horntail and above are just going to make me need even more. So at this point I had finished the Perion quest line. Overall it was really nice. It was nice revisiting some of the maps like the excavation site. But I now was moving on to Eleanor Ferry Academy. This is a theme dungeon that I think is supposed to be for level 30 to 60, and I've done it plenty of times before in other characters. However, usually I only use the first couple maps Fancy gives you to train at, then I would basically leave. The story revolves around this character, Cootie, who is a young guy, I think he's a human, who is absolutely obsessed with the culture and science of fairies. And so he basically spends his time around the Fairy Academy studying the creatures and the fairies themselves. Now, when some of the children in the village go missing, everyone at the academy becomes very suspicious that Cootie is in fact the person who kidnapped the children. So after speaking with Fancy, we try to cross the water but find there's actually a magical barrier the fairies have created that makes us drown every time. So you know, don't get these guys mistaken. The fairies, the more we actually learn about them in the game, they're not very nice, and they don't trust humans or any other race besides themselves. Yes, they're intelligent, but I don't know. I'm not getting a good vibe from the fairies so far. All of our quests in Alinea, they've been very rude, and so I don't see any reason to believe them that Cootie is responsible for this kidnapping. Like I remembered from my other characters, basically every single map in the Eleanor Fairy Academy is fantastic experience, especially these purple fairy slimes that can be found at the far left map. I highly recommend you go check out this map and grind there for at least a couple levels, maybe from 30 to 40 or 45, even if you don't complete the quest. After all, you already know what's going to happen in the story because of ya boy. So if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe. So once we get to the Fairy Academy, we speak with Headmistress Ivana and the faculty head Kalian. They both are very distrustful, and as you can see, they actually have poor Cootie tied up, bound in rope, kidnapped himself in the academy. They basically suspect that his obsession with the fairies is what has led him to attack and kidnap the children, but Cootie tells us that is simply not the case. His only interest is studying the magic organisms that are in the academy and filling out his plant encyclopedia. Cootie tells us that if we're able to retrieve this encyclopedia, he believes it might turn the opinion of the headmistress in his favor. And it does work. In fact, when she sees it, she becomes quite curious and thinks, maybe this human Cootie isn't so bad after all. But they're not completely sold. So Cootie asks us to find his research report for the same purpose. Unfortunately, this absolute dingus Cootie has lost the research report in the lake like his plant encyclopedia. And that is where we come in to retrieve it. So I grabbed the report after killing a couple of these fairy wisps, and this does do the job of further convincing Headmistress Ivana of his innocence. With nowhere left to turn and starting to believe that Cootie is in fact not the suspect, Headmistress Ivana decides to let us investigate the case. Although she does not fully trust us, she allows us restricted access to the dormitory in hopes that we can find some remnants of where the children have gone. Now, Cootie uses his big brain in this instance to help us come up with a plan, and he decides that children are very gossipy. They're always talking about what's going on, and if we're able to kill these grumpy tomes in the area, we might be able to find a note left behind that will give us further clues. After finding a note, we investigate the boys' dormitory and actually find a 300-page long stage play written by the children themselves. And guys, I actually took some time to read what is in the stage play, and it's basically just the story of the heroes of MapleStory, like Freud, Evan, Iran, Luminous, and perhaps them writing this stage play does in fact have something to do with their disappearance. So after successfully finding evidence in the boys' dormitory, we do decide to search the girls' dormitory as well, which is apparently laid out in the same fashion. This map was actually kind of confusing. In the series, I just show you guys the parts that involve progression, but in some of these quests and some of the quests in the later episodes, especially Afterlands, guys, I was so confused. I spent like an hour just going around to random rooms and not realizing what the was actually going on, because I did not want to look up guides. I want this to be legit. I want this to be real. So we found these notes that further enforce the children are up to something suspect. And in the next episode, we're going to find out exactly what happened. So until next time, happy mapling.
3, 2, 1.